I have the pleasure of introducing the next presenter. The title of his paper is Fight, Not Flight, an Unexplored Answer to Mass School Shootings. Please welcome Chad Mitchell.
In April 1999, there was a relatively normal boy named Eric. Eric was on his high school baseball team. He had a best friend, a girlfriend, and a wealthy and supportive family. He was, quote, trusted in a heartbeat by his teachers. But this seemingly normal boy kept a journal immersed in Nazi ideology, where he wished the harshest torture and death upon gays, black people, women, and people with disability. He took pleasure in fantasizing about ripping apart his classmates piece by piece, bone by bone, with his own teeth. But this is not all. He even wrote plans to fly a plane into New York City skyscrapers 2 years before terrorists did it on 9/11. Eric Harris was a Columbine High School senior that was deeply troubled and sadistic. His narcissistic and manipulative behavior convinced his best friend, Dylan Klebod, to help him plant pipe bombs in their high school cafeteria, where 660 students ate lunch a day, and then proceed to shoot their way through their school because he, quote, wanted natural selection to occur faster. Fortunately, none of their bombs went off, but they still murdered 15 innocent people. Before Columbine, school shootings did occur, but they are not nearly as prevalent as they are today. Although there is much physical harm, this does not represent the psychological damage that has occurred in children who have witnessed these shootings. As Americans and people who want the best for their youth, why have we failed to protect our children from such horrific attacks on them? As a senior in high school, I should not worry about being murdered by a fellow classmate in a shooting rampage. I should worry about finishing school with good grades, college applications and decisions, and making sure that I am well prepared to function as an adult in society. So how do we solve this problem? What options do we have to put an end to these horrific attacks on American youth? For years after a school shooting, many teachers, politicians, and even students call for many different types of responses. Some of these include heightened security measures to prevent these shootings. Some of these security policies include student and staff identification badges, security cameras, metal detectors, mental health programs for potentially at-risk students, or even just a call to have better gun control. At a glance, some of these solutions look to be all around beneficial, as mental health programs no doubt provide much needed counseling to children suffering from depression and possibly suicide. And the installation of metal detectors can help prevent students from harboring illicit paraphernalia, such as weapons or drugs, on school campuses. But metal detectors can easily become bottlenecks for shooters, giving them lots of targets in one concentrated area. And mental health programs have been proven to be no less effective. As the CDC reports, the suicide rates amongst Americans ages 10 to 24 has risen 56% from the years 2007 to 2017, alongside a 63% increase in depression. So, with what seems to be no effective solution to stop school shooters, I want to offer a possible alternative solution. I argue that American school teachers with proper training should be allowed to possess a firearm in the classroom. Teachers that volunteer would be required to receive and maintain adequate firearm safety and skill training that make them rational, safe, and effective in a scenario where they would need to discharge their firearm. The average response time to an active shooter situation is 3 minutes, but in some places can get up to 40 minutes. An armed teacher could respond within seconds. Gun control advocates have said for years that arming teachers is not a viable solution, as more guns simply equals more violence. And liability will indeed be present. For example, a teacher could accidentally or even intentionally give a student access to their firearm. A teacher could also accidentally shoot an innocent student during the shooting. What's more, a responding law enforcement officer could be shot by an armed teacher who is actively trying to stop the shooting alongside them. Now, these are indeed possible objections to my solution. However, these teachers will be trained and equipped. These teachers will be trained and upheld to law enforcement standards with testing that is renewed each year. They will be given and held to strict background checks and reviews by community members. And finally, they're required to keep their firearm in a biometric safe in order to prevent a standard safe access code from being leaked to students. With this training, teachers will be taught to recognize threats and know when to surrender to responding law enforcement officers. And if a teacher were to accidentally shoot an innocent student, they would be counseled, and if deemed not fit to return to their job, they would be awarded a deserved pension for their heroic actions. School shootings are on the rise in America, and there is no solution to protect our youth. And if we continue to not protect our children in schools, they will be pushed into fear, anxious, and wondering if they will be next. Although it may seem difficult to imagine our current culture without these shootings, arming teachers could be the best chance we have to see that day. With firearms, selected teachers will be trained and equipped to fight off a shooter with a quick and forceful response that could one day lead to an end of deeply troubled boys like Eric from murdering their classmates. Thank you.